you'll see that quite detailed different tiers. I want to make sure that everything's clear to everyone. If you don't have time, I'd say for at least 2.5 out of the 5 live sessions, take the self-study tier. Again, enrollment will close for this on Thursday this week. It's now Monday. And we have only a few places left in the seminars anyways. So let's say you don't have time, you get access to the recordings. You just click on enroll now under the Ithacan author tier here. That's that option. If you do have time for several, 2.5, let's say, best case, of course, would be 5 sessions. And then you join the live Salon and just secure your seat by clicking here. That takes you to Teachable, which is the platform we use to host our courses. So you'll retain lifetime access. It's not a subscription or anything to all course materials. Once you're in, you get access to the syllabus, but also, as I mentioned before, you get access to a Discord server immediately as well, which will be which is a forum for you to introduce yourself to the others. And also, I think the discussion has started already to some extent. So I will not be terribly available on the Discord because experience has shown that if I interject too much, it somewhat stifles the discussion that you should be having amongst yourselves already now. And of course, also during the week. What will happen is once you enroll now, you will get sent 2 emails that help clarify what you need to do for this Saturday. After the first session on Saturday, you will be sent an email on Sunday to let you know how to prepare for the week after. So this will be 5 intense weeks of reading Homer's Odyssey together. And so this is the live Salon. There are also private tutorials if you so desire to take those with me. I think there's 1 left at the moment. So this would include 3 private tutorials with yours truly, which we will hold during the 5 weeks of the Odyssey. Once you enroll in the Odysseus Fellowship, as we've called it, we will send you a couple of questions just to get a better understanding of who you are and why you would like to read the Odyssey with me, and especially also have these private tutorials. All the online meetings, just to say the obvious, these are done over Zoom. And there's no need for you to have your camera on if you don't want to. That's not necessary. But of course, it's a bit better for the rest. So what will happen during the seminars? Let me just point this out. So I will lecture. I think the first lecture will be a bit longer than the others because I have to set the scene. I have to say a few more things. Then perhaps during the rest, usually about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. After that, you'll be sent to a breakout session for about maybe 10 minutes. That means it's an off-the-record, small group work exercise where you discuss a very open question. So I'll tell you which question I'd like you to discuss. And once you come back, there'll be student presentations and a Q&A, or rather a seminar discussion as you would have at university. And what we want to understand is what the Odyssey is, why it is so fundamental, why we need to read it still, and especially why we need to defy the god of Hollywood. I'm almost grateful to this jealous god and the abysmal attempt at Nolan's corruption of the text and whoever paid him to do so, because it allowed me to, to teach this course. It almost, you could almost say it caused it. I read the Odyssey first when I was 16, 17, in Greek, in ancient Greek. And so what I'd like to discuss now is the following. So I have Richmond Lattimore. That's this translation. I also have Mary's, and I'm just going to look at Mary's briefly because that includes the Greek text. So don't worry. Greek, there's no prerequisite for the course except for a genuinely open mind. You know, if you come at this saying that Odysseus was just a privileged bourgeois, as Adorno and his grandchildren do, then you don't have an open mind, then you shouldn't come. But if you have a genuinely open mind, then you should come. Andra moyenne pe musa polutropon hosmala pola planchte epei troies hieron tolietron epersen. So I, of course, have the Erasmus pronunciation, which to a Greek ear I think sounds horrendous. But this is how I was taught, and so there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. These just were the first 2 lines of the Odyssey. Andra moi ennepe. Andra means man. That's already different from the Iliad. The Iliad begins with the word mnene, and which means anger or rage. And the difference, of course, is that we're now looking at a man, and that man is or happens to be Odysseus, of course. But perhaps even more importantly is the second word, which is moi. Moi is dative, means me. Of the man, to me, speak, or sing if you want to be a bit more poetic. But tell me of the man, musa, muse. We don't know which muse. It might be perhaps even the mother of the muses, Mnemosyne herself. We don't know. I'll just claim it's Mnemosyne. But the moi matters. It means that now the rhapsode is no longer just the medium. There's no moi in the first 2 lines. There's no sing to me or there's just sing of the rage of Achilles. So it's the muse herself singing. Now it's already singing through. The muse is already singing through the rhapsode. And Homer captured that for us, that intense moment of human consciousness coming to consciousness of itself. Virgil is already very different. He says, I sing, I tell you. Ich, I, ego, ego, ego. But here, the Romans are to blame for everything. But here we have the rhapsode in touch with the divine, with the realm of memory itself, who is about to sing of polutropon, a man, andra polutropon. Polutropon, what means? Well, many ways. Very simple. Of many ways, but it's not so simple. So Mary, for example, translates as of many devices. I don't like that at all. I think is it 19th century? I don't know. Slurp classics. I have no idea. So the reason why I don't fancy that one is because it seems as though we're just talking about Odysseus now. But we're not. This fixation on just a subject that acts is too modern for me. There's another translation, a recent one, which we shouldn't mention too much, but that translation translates polutropon as complicated, which is just absurd. Yeah, ideologically misguided, let's say. So when I saw Lattimore's translation, as compared to Fegel's, which is somewhere up here behind, I have the 3 volumes of his the Iliad, the Odyssey, and Virgil, the Aeneid. So here's Lattimore. Tell me, muse of the man of many ways. Now that is brilliant. because of many ways doesn't just reduce everything down to Odysseus and his supposed character. It actually tells us that Odysseus himself is caught between or is on many ways, etc. And those many ways play out fate, destiny, the gods. All of this is captured in the word polytropon. I will have to say more on this at the lecture on Saturday. So if you have questions, specifically, let's say on the technical side of the course itself, let me know. If you have questions on Homer's The Odyssey, please let me know as well. Now, when the trailer, let me just show you something. So Christopher Nolan, I think of Christopher Nolan in the following way. I think that he's a sort of weather vane for the regime. His Batman is a neocon. The Batman films were made mostly, I think films is saying too much, movies. I think they were shot and published, at least the first two, during Bush, the Bush era. And that is what Nolan perfectly exemplified here. Interstellar is an interesting film. Very much plays into the climate change mania that began about a decade ago. I mean, it's always bubbling up, but it got more intense maybe about a decade ago, which is when it came out. But underlying all of his movies is the replacement of the divine with liberal scientism, the belief that everything can be quantified. He is the movie maker of Enframing and the Age of Quantification. That's what Nolan is. So all of his playing with time, etc., all of this is just all based on quantification. So if you're here as a Nolan fanboy, I have to disappoint you. Not your place. And what I found particularly aggravating, Odyssey poster. Let me show you this. I don't think I can show the trailer, probably because of, how do I do this? I don't think I can show the trailer, or else they might just completely, because of copyright. So I just won't do it. This, forgive that it's Reddit, but this is just the first image I could find. This is the official poster. I mean, the font is terrifyingly terrible. Absolutely horrendous. But look, defy the gods. And as we learn in the most recent trailer, it is actually Matt Damon. It is Odysseus, quote unquote, who says, "Then I defy the gods." Rawr. And here we have the head of Athena cut off by a warrior, as we learned in the first trailer. And it's very likely that this is actually Odysseus himself who cuts off Athena's head. Now, if you look at the thumbnail of my live stream here, it shows a painting by Giuseppe Bottani, an Italian painter. The full title in English is Athena Appearing to Odysseus to Reveal the Island of Ithaca. The painting by Bottoni, 18th century painter, shows the intimate relationship. Let me show you the painting. It shows the intimate relationship that Athena has with Odysseus, a darling of the gods, not just with him, but with his entire family, especially with his son. Athena guides him, and Latimore's translation is so important because he doesn't hide the gods. It is very much on Athena sending thoughts, giving Odysseus an inkling, a notion on what to do next. He is connected through his nous, which is itself divine for the Greeks, to Athena herself. Caravaggio says, and fittingly, the avatar is Medusa's head by Caravaggio. The trailer is terrible. I had the displeasure of watching in the cinema, and it's even worse on the big screen. Well, I apologize if we didn't have to throw up. So it's not a small. It's not just a catchy subtitle to say "Defy the Gods." It is a complete, not just inversion, but subversion of what the Odyssey is. And this should be clear to anyone who's taken the time to read at least just the first 2 or 3 pages. It begins on the Council of the Gods. Now, philologists have argued for more than a century that the first book may have been written later, etc. I don't care. It does. To me, that doesn't matter. What matters is what the tradition tells us. And what we understand from the Council of the Gods is, as I shall present to you in a second, is that Odysseus is the darling of the gods. He is described by them as godlike. So he's not described by them as complicated, as lying, as mischievous, as a trickster, a bourgeois, of course not. No, godlike. Of a lion heart, he is described by Penelope, his wife. So I take the description of the Olympians and Penelope over anything that anyone who's got nothing to say on the matter, like Adorno and others and his grandchildren, have to say on the matter. So here is what Athena has to say. And again, this will be more in depth at the seminar. But the heart in me is torn for the sake of wise Odysseus, unhappy man who still far from his friends is suffering, grieves, on the sea-washed island, the navel of all the waters, a wooded island, and there a goddess has made her dwelling place. She is daughter of malignant Atlas, who has discovered all the depths of the sea and himself sustains the towering columns which bracket earth and sky and hold them together. So Athena is talking about Calypso, which is also after the Telemachy, after the first 4 books, we first encounter Odysseus himself. And now here's what she has to say, sorry. This is his daughter, Calypso. She detains the grieving unhappy man, and ever with soft and flattering words, she works to charm him to forget Ithaca. And yet Odysseus, straining to get sight of the very smoke uprising from his own country, longs to die. But you, Olympian, the heart in you is heedless of him. Did not Odysseus do you grace by the ships of the Argives making sacrifice in wide Troy? Why, Zeus, are you now so harsh with him? So very briefly, I'll expand on this at the lecture on Saturday, and during the seminar we'll do too. So let me just point this out for anyone who's joining just now. Glofty says, I'm glad that this point, which I believe you are referring to the importance of the gods, is being given its proper emphasis. Well, thank you. Yes, we must, because Hollywood, the machinery of Hollywood, is so powerful. I fear that millions of people, because again, well, you may disagree. You may say it's our biggest mistake or error in the West is to try and be universalistic. But that's what we've given to the world is universalism. This is a universal story that can speak to people anywhere. And of course, what Hollywood is doing by transmitting this into the cinemas and later on the streaming screens of millions and millions of people. This will be the only, including in the West, because we've become so uprooted and resonated. Most people have never heard of the Odyssey. They will watch this and think it's some sort of epic film everyone has to see. It's like Oppenheimer. And this will be the only time they will encounter the Odyssey. And they will get the exact, this is a prayer to the false god of Hollywood. This is what this movie is. Do not underestimate the religious, theological dimension of Hollywood films. Yes, movies, I should say, not films. Movies, including anything we might consider trash, like Marvel movies and Batman, it's whatever, all that stuff. And including this. This is an attempt by the god of Hollywood to install himself as the one true God, to defy the gods who are our gods. And that Odysseus longs to die means that he is choosing to be mortal. He forfeits the gift of immortality granted by Calypso. That is what she would give him. That's how she tries to seduce him to stay, because he knows that he has to return home, not just for his own sake. He has to be mortal to help restore divine order on the earth by restoring his household. That is what now must happen in a world out of joint after war. So here is Zeus's response to Athena. My child, what sort of word escaped your teeth's barrier? How could I forget Odysseus, the godlike? He who is beyond all other men in mind, and who beyond others has given sacrifice to the gods, who hold wide heaven. We are on page 3 of the text. In Latimore, this is line 65 and following. I'll read this again. Matt Damon in the movie says, then I defy the gods. Zeus says in Homer, how could I forget Odysseus the godlike, who is beyond all other men in mind, and who beyond others has given sacrifice to the gods who hold wide heaven. The gods hold wide heaven, and so Odysseus, as a sacred instrument of divine order, has to hold that wide heavenly order on the earth by restoring his oikos, his house, oikonomia. He has to restore the nomos of the oikos to help restore the order of the Olympians on the earth as well, which means order. Or else, and it's not insignificant that Calypso is a daughter of Atlas, who is a Titan. The Titanic order is chaotic. So, I'll skip over a few things that I will mention at the seminar and lecture on Saturday, which I'd like to point out again. Enroll in the course now. I will teach this once this summer. Enrollment closes on Thursday. There's only a few places left in the live seminar, so scroll all the way down. This is the one you want. Join the live salon. Click secure your seat. It takes you to a page where you make an account and send the honorarium our way, which again helps us to keep the lights on here. So here is what Zeus has to say about Poseidon, who is angered because Odysseus harmed and derided his son, Polyphemus the Cyclops. Cyclops means round eye, not one-eyed, but the Cyclops is this. So he's one-eyed, but for some reason called Cyclops, round-eyed. So here's what, again, so Zeus is aware that it is Poseidon who bars Odysseus from returning home to Ithaca. So here's what Zeus has to say. Poseidon shall put away his anger, for all alone and against the will of the other immortal gods, united he can accomplish nothing. He being Poseidon. Because Odysseus the godlike is the darling of the gods, and not in defiance of them. And that, my friends, is how we will begin the lecture on Saturday. I will continue with a few more words on what's going on here, and of course also tie this to the Iliad, a very different text. We encounter very different people and a very different world in the Iliad altogether. And still, I think it was all Homer who wrote it, or dictated it, being fully aware of the differences in, let's just say, consciousness or self-awareness. And I will then continue on with the rest of the 3 books of the so-called Telemachy. I will introduce, and again, Athena appears to Telemachus as mentor or mentis. She gives him advice. We encounter Penelope, the strong, a woman who holds the house together, awaiting Odysseus against the cruel suitors who do what? Who violate the sacred law of xenia, of hospitality. So one of the themes we'll encounter again and again throughout our reading of this, as we begin our reading on Saturday, for the next 5 weeks, we'll encounter again and again the importance of hospitality and what happens to those who harm hospitality. For example, who violate hospitality. For example, Polyphemus, who is therefore harmed. The reason why Odysseus harms Polyphemus is, of course, the Cyclops, is, of course, to free himself and his crew, but is also because Polyphemus deserves it, because he's in violation of hospitality. To be a good host and to be a good guest, not to overstay your welcome, for example, as a guest. So we are going to consider the so-called adventures or the by Odysseus, but that's not the main focus. We want to read the entire Odyssey and understand these fundamental themes that are in it, which ground Greek culture, that great inheritance that we have received, and which we are, I think, charged with to play forward if we want to be rooted in anything that isn't Hollywood. Because that is what they do, isn't it? So if you have any questions, on the Odyssey, on the course perhaps specifically, please do let me know now, or else I have to disappear into the good night now before I go over the details of the course again. So if you have a question, put it in the chat now, whether you're listening to this on YouTube or on X. Perfectly fine. I think I can see all comments, I think. Shokai says, I love the logo. Well, thank you. That's a new one. Finally, we've got a proper logo, which symbolizes what Halcyon stands for: wisdom, strength, and virtue. So I'll just point out a few more things in the meantime as you gather your thoughts and think of a good question to ask me. I'm going to teach this seminar once. We begin this Saturday. You go over to just visit the enrollment page now. All right. So go over to this page. Take a look at the page together with me now. And forgive me, you have to scroll down a little bit. I want to give you a full overview of what the course is about so you can make up your mind. So you can see the exact course curriculum here. Books 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12. That's the so-called wanderings and the monsters and everything. The return to Ithaca and its skies, and then, of course, restoring order in the end. And most importantly, perhaps, I think book 23 is where Penelope recognizes Odysseus again by his knowledge of the olive tree bed. Brian L. So your question is, can I review part of the course when not live? I think I know what you mean. So if I'm not clarifying what you mean, please just follow up with another question. So if you cannot make the live sessions because your time zone doesn't make sense, so again, we meet at 4 p.m. Central European time, that's 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. PST for 5 weeks. So you can see all sessions here. Let's say you can't make it for whatever reason. You just join the Odyssey seminar as an auditor. That means you get access to absolutely everything except the live sessions. That's it. So the recordings, the selected readings, the syllabus, etc. You can follow along on your own time. You don't have to finish within 5 weeks. You can do this over the course of a year. It would be a good idea to keep following along as much as you can during the 5 weeks, even if you can't join live, because that just ensures that you actually read the text and you come back to it again later on, perhaps. So that would give you access to that if that was your question. If that doesn't answer your question, please just follow up with a further question. So if you can actually make, I would always say 2.5 of the 5 sessions, the live sessions, join the Halcyon Salon Scholar tier, the live cohort. So that explains everything here. There's 20 seats, there's a couple left. So just click here, takes you to an enrollment page, and the usual things, credit card, PayPal payment, etc. There's also Klarna. So Brian L asks, can I ask you questions via email or something if I have any? Yes, of course. So what you should do, so there will be a Discord server which is open to everyone. So no matter which tier you're in, you can join the Discord, and that's for you to discuss the book with everyone else. So you can do that, as you go. I am available to a certain extent, but not so much, because experience has shown the less I'm active on these forums, the more active you are, or else it just becomes a Q&A session for me. But what you should do if you are in the auditor showed you, Brian, you just leave a comment. Let me show you this. So if you, once you enroll, immediately what you get access to is this here, this page here. So this is the syllabus, and there's another syllabus that I'll have to re-upload this. There's a longer version of this one here. That shows you, okay, so here is book one. That's the proper, this shows you what it looks like on the inside. You know, focused reading, questions. It's the same as on the syllabus, but still there's a couple of pictures. Here's a video of mine that you should watch just to have an idea of what I mean with the first, and then you just leave a comment. So if you have a question, don't send me an email, leave a comment for the benefit of everyone. You don't have to, I think you probably have a username that is not yours, your real name. It's all fine. Doesn't have to be your name. Just leave a comment, post a comment, and I'll, get back to you in time. So don't expect an answer within 10 minutes, but in time, I will, of course, respond to it. Happily so, because this ensures that everyone, no matter what level you're on, which tier you're on, or in terms of anything, how you're going through this course, if you have a question, leave the question, and I'll get back to you very gladly. Of course, if you're in the course. So that's the best way to do it. Discord server to meet the others, and then leave a comment. And because this might mean that someone else who's in the course has a similar question, and then maybe their question is answered, or it actually leads to some sort of discussion, best case scenario. So this would be a very good question. Thank you. And I was glad that I could clarify that for you. So yes, no matter which tier you're in, you're not completely on your own. I am happy to answer questions if for whatever reason you can't make the live seminars, which of course I fully understand. Well, thank you for the question then. Yes, the syllabus will be changed right after this. There's something. So there is a long version syllabus, which you also received via email. I'm sure if you are in the seminars, you should have received it. So if you are in here, let's scroll back up. This is the main syllabus anyways. That's the one you want. And that's 8 pages. That gives you a full overview of what to read for each week. So that's the one you should be looking at. The other one is more pop cultural, shall we say. Here's a question that I didn't get to before. Which German translation? So the standard translation is by Voss, Johann Voss. I would still recommend that one. Johann Voss, V-O-S. Scharfes S. Johann Voss. That's the one. So just look for, I would assume that there's a Reklam version of this. I would assume there's very likely a Gutenberg or Zeno.org version of this. So again, Brian L., I think that's a good question. So I'll just answer this now if anyone is listening for the benefit of them. Is the whole thing synchronous or partly asynchronous? So it depends what you enroll in. Let me just point this out perhaps briefly. So if you don't have time for the seminars, which begin this Saturday, the asynchronous or self-study tier is this one. And that gives you access, just explained, to all the course materials, the recordings, and you leave a comment, I'll get back to you. And you also get access to the Discord server where the group will continue the discussion. Already now there's some discussion, and of course also during the week. It'll be as active as you make it. But it's 5 weeks, so I assume that there will be quite a bit of activity. If you want to take the seminars, the synchronous study, this is it. The Halcyon Salon Scholar. You click on secure your seat, takes you to the enrollment page. And that is everything I just described, plus the live lectures and seminars over Zoom, which makes sense if you have the time. If you don't have the time, you're not entirely on your own. So I'll be there as I just described, responding to your comments, etc. Glofty again, which I assume you are enrolled as far as I can tell from your comments. I'm very interested in the discussion on the encounter Odysseus has with the Eidolon of Heracles. Looking forward to the seminar. Yes, a drop of blood secures or lets the dead reappear at the very edge of the world. And the Eidolon is an important word. I mean, we're not yet Platonists here. So it is fun. It means phantasma, shadow image, similar to what it does, of course, for Plato. But we shouldn't conflate Homer and Plato. And we shouldn't read into Homer some sort of proto-Platonism even. But we should rather perhaps, because that would be asynchronous anyways, but we should look at Plato as understanding the power of the image and of appearance, and thus warning of mere appearance. And what it does, especially through mimesis, imitation, etc. So this is I think this should be week 3, the so-called adventures of Odysseus. This will be one of the main parts of the lecture, and of course, and also of the discussion. So there will be quite a, you can imagine, of course, there will be spin-off discussions of this. So while we focus on the Odyssey, we will look towards the great paideia, the great education and formation we inherit from Homer, but also Plato, who bans Homer apparently outright from the Callipolis. I happen to believe that he doesn't really ban Homer, at least not in the way that we usually think of it. I think of a ban or a censorship. He rewrites Homer in parts, he does, but he also, and that's not a rewriting. So on my channel, there's a video on the importance of Odysseus in Plato's Republic, in the myth of and I think that is a continuation of the myth and the story of Odysseus, not a rewrite, because the eternal recurrence of Odysseus is only possible based on the Odysseus we know from Homer. So Odysseus can only choose the new life pattern, the new bios paradigmaton, because he's aware, the soul remembers its life as a hero, and hence chooses the life of a layman. So we see here the eternal recurrence of the same, not an eschatological story at all, and the memory of the soul retained and then recurring. But you can only choose this life, the next life pattern of a private man, etc., if you are at the same time, of course, aware of the previous life you've lived. So the next life that Plato tells us. So it's not some sort of proto-Christianity either, I think. One has to be careful here. So I'm quite interested to know now who you are, Glofty, because from that name and that avatar, I can't tell who you are. I think I've seen everyone who's enrolled, but oh yes, so good to see. I'm enrolled in the seminar and a great lover of the poetry. But that's very good. You've come to the right place. Yeah, you have come to the right place. Wonderful to have you. But do let me know maybe in an email if you don't have to tell me who you are. But I have a suspicion that you haven't been to any of my seminars yet. I'll find out. It's quite a new group also, which is good. Bring some new blood. I had no idea about that concerning Plato. Yes, and then Luke says I need to read the Republic already. Yes, I think you absolutely have to. I think everyone, when you mean being speaking in the general, it's foundational to philosophy. People often ask me to, how where to start. Start with Plato's Republic. It's more accessible than you think. There is also a course on the Republic at the Halcyon Academy, taught by me, recorded in Athens and in Delphi. So I was actually, for the first time, only a few years ago, in Greece, if you believe it. I'd only ever been there mentally, and so yeah, it'll be it was a wonderful time for me to look at to see the Acropolis and then be able to lecture on Plato and Aristotle. So I recorded 2 courses in 4 days or so. And so if you need some guidance, take the Republic course by me on the Halcyon Academy. That would be very good because it also, as I said, helps me continue the work here. And thank you so much, Harris. So Harris just shared for everyone and I hope you can make it to the seminar, Harris. I'd love to see you again. The video that I mentioned just before. So this might be a good entry point. And the Republic is so fundamental. In it, you find the analogy or the simile or the myth or the allegory, however people refer to it, of the cave. So that's where it's at. It's the analogy of the lion, the simile of the sun. We learn about his theory of the soul, the taxis of the soul. And we learn especially that Odysseus is of good, just order of the soul because he doesn't let his thumos take charge, take lead when his servants spend the night partying with the suitors upon his return. Of course, they don't know that he's returned. Reason is in charge for him. And this is the story of the Odyssey. So yeah, so the online stuff, I mean, it is quite straightforward. I mean, that's why we use Discord. I mean, it's a little bit too gamer like, even for my taste, but it's something that I've learned. Many people already have, and it's quick, it's easy to use. It's not a difficult forum, so that's why we use it until we find something better. You use Discord server to meet the other, because you'll be able to talk to them in the breakout sessions. So you'll actually encounter some of them every week. And so, but what we could also almost do, maybe hot seats in the first session. We have 3 meetings of 5 minutes each, so you get to talk to as many as possible. And then you come back to the main discussion room. So you know who you're talking to when you're on the Discord server. And the same is true, of course, or similar for those who can only do the asynchronous study. Maybe I should start using that term, so that makes it perhaps a bit clearer than self-study, which I always thought was straightforward, but perhaps it isn't. So yeah, overall though, it'll be a live lecture, so there's not much you have to do in terms of that preparation. What you have to do is read. So this is the week, if you decide to join now, is that you have to read. So you have to start reading. It's really, really important that you read. And thanks to whoever just enrolled. That's great to see. Start the reading, even if you're in the self-study, the asynchronous tier. Start reading, get the copy, Latimore. It's not the most beautiful book cover ever made, but forget it. There's hardcover copies as well, older ones. This is a new one. It's Harper Perennial Modern Classics. I think currently in America, this is $8 or $9. It's a steal, and it's about the text, not the cover. Yeah, what's the old saying? Don't judge a book by its cover. So if you have the time for the live salon, I implore you all to join the live cohort and learn a group of peers. You see, even an older semester apparently is able to navigate Discord. And I don't mean me. I mean, even though I could talk about me, because I had to learn all this stuff myself. Or if you really don't have time for the seminars, join this tier here and start reading. Give it some time, and also very importantly, what you can see behind me here. Can you? Where's my finger? All this here, these are notebooks. That's the owl of Minerva flying at dusk. There are more notebooks here. This is just some of them. I have to be careful. I want to throw down the vase, but these are all full of nonsense. But what you want to do for this course is to get a nice, I don't know, moleskin or anything, just for this one course. So you use it only for this occasion, and you use a fountain pen, perhaps, or get a good pen for it, and take notes while you're reading. Whether you're doing this in the asynchronous study, also self-study, or in the seminars, that's what you should do. Because think about it, in about 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, no matter how old or young you are, you can come back to not only the recordings of this seminar forever, so you can listen back to them again and again and again, and leave more and more comments, of course, as well, that we'll get to at some point. But also, you leave your notebook somewhere sitting in your bookshelf. And once you have, you might remember something you noted down during the seminars, during your reading, and you remember it so much more easily because it's handwritten. And you can come back to it, and it's somewhere early on, page 4. There it is. That's the thought I was looking for. And if you've got some pages left in the journal, just continue the note taking. Commentare, to comment, means to think along with. So you can think along with yourself. That is part of building your own library. Don't just really buy books, of course, but you also There's a good question here by Super Mario. So if you could follow the link to enroll now and join the course, that would be much appreciated. So briefly on this, could you comment a bit on the difference between German, English, French translations, why not Italian, of the Greek? Was wondering if the German translations had the advantage of sharing the caste system with the Greek. Well, so on the latter part, I think yes, that is an advantage. There are other advantages, but that doesn't mean that you cannot retell this story in every other language as well. One advantage that the English has is that it is very descriptive. And Homeric Greek is very descriptive as well. Rosy finger dawn. Of course, we can say this in English and German too, but so while the English has lost more or less all of its cases, it's not a reflexive language, and in that sense, the German might be closer to the ancient Greek. We shouldn't think that you can't read this. If you want to get really close to the language, then you have to read it in Greek, which is Homeric Greek is quite difficult. I've always found it more difficult than Attic Greek or the Greek of Plato and Aristotle. But what we'll do in the course is wherever it's necessary, For example, with the word polytropon, I will mention the Greek. So I will mention the Greek, maybe even a few lines, read them out aloud during the lecture, and try and translate, not in a neat, just one word or one phrase, but maybe it has to be an entire sentence. And so that's how we'll try and get a bit of a feeling for the language itself, or its rhythm also. And because I think the rhythm speaks to, or relates to, well, not just the memory technique, but I think without the rhythm, the verse, let's say, Versmaß, you with it, I think you realize more what is going on. It's difficult to say this now, but I think that if at least for some, if you andra moyen, and there's other people who can do this much better than me, so andra moyen per musa polytropon hosma la polytropon. We do want to get some sense of the Greek as well, and for the melody of it, in order to see, because what happens in listening to it's a communal experience. Yeah, what happens is that they don't imagine anything. I think what happens is that through the words themselves, a world arises. It's not subjective imagination. So everyone has a different Odysseus in their mind. It's something is in the language itself that opens up a certain world, and that is also what we're trying to see. And this is why I think Hollywood ultimately, or any cinema, any place, cannot capture the epics. I mean, especially a movie maker like Nolan, because he is the movie maker of enframing, of Gestell, to use that Heideggerian term, which is anti-memory to the core. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot missing in German too. Yeah, so doesn't have inflected cases. The ablativus, for example, in Latin is missing, etc. So, oh yeah, but this is good. So there's no, I don't think any language trumps the other when it comes to translation. I think what's more important is that the translator respects the text and doesn't try to ideologically bend it to a certain presentistic tendency, shall we say. So it's been so long since I've studied Greek. I now have to rely on the Perseus Greek study tool, which is great. So I link to it. Everyone should make use of it. It helps so much. I make use of it. And so that is going to help us, I think, greatly in this endeavor. But again, it is not an exercise in philology or even reading the ancient Greek. You're not going to learn ancient Greek. That's not what we're doing here. We're reading the Latimore translation for the reasons I've given at the beginning. And by reading that in translation, we try and let the Homeric world appear, not as an eidolon, but as a reflection of itself in memory, not just as vain imagination, as Goethe might put it, of which he warns, because it is of the devil. Just kidding. Okay, so follow the link in the description of this video and do so now. Because enrollment is closing, my friends, and I'm only offering this course once. I'll go over this one more time. You join the Odyssey here if you don't have time for the seminars, self-study. If you do have time for the seminars, live cohort, Halcyon Salon. Secure your seat. Always look for the golden button. Enroll now. Secure your seat. Only a few left. If you'd like to take private tutorials with yours truly, Dr. Niederhauser, then you should choose the Odysseus Fellowship. Enroll now. There's one left. So thank you very much for listening and for the excellent questions and comments here. It's good to know that good people have signed up. Stephen, I look forward to meeting you. Harris, I hope you can make it. Brian L., I hope you can make it too in the self-study. And then just as we discussed, leave a comment when you have a question and hop on the Discord server once you're enrolled. So, well, I think that should be it. I see you inside. Thank you.